Sometimes I feel like I'm overdoing it. Hi, it's me, Andrej. I think we've already made fun of the way this machine looks quite a bit, but it's funny because I have a theory. This theory might have its roots, the story of this motorcycle's appearance might have its roots before 2010, because that's roughly when the first talks between the European branch of Yamaha and the Japanese took place, and the Europeans were pushing, hey, listen, we need to do something different, something more aggressive, something more for Europe, something for the States, some motorcycles, you know, more emotion, faster, different communication. And they were like, but why? Our motorcycles are great. So yeah, we know they're great, but we need something, you know, with a bit more edge. Fortunately, there was one Japanese guy there who was on the team with the Europeans, and he explained to the decision makers what was behind it, that Europeans actually love Japanese culture, you know, that underground Japanese culture, those unusual Japanese shows, that unique Japanese art, and that people are really into it. So let's bring it out. And they said, okay then. And that's how the first crazy MT-09, MT-07 and so on came to be, and so on, and so on. And I think this is an example of the Japanese really going all out. And it's like, just as we sometimes don't fully understand Japanese culture, not completely. For now, we can understand the look of this motorcycle, I'll admit. I'm not a fan either, because the proportions seem kind of reversed. Since we're used to something else. We're used to the headlight being low, then the fuel tank, then the seat post, you know, the standard layout. But here it's the other way around. So this is simply the Japanese style, and I think you just have to accept it. If someone doesn't like it, well, that's just how it is, they probably won't buy it. Unless, for example, you actually take a ride on this motorcycle, because then it's really a completely different story. I've actually never been a huge fan myself of the MT-09, because for me those bikes were all about making great first impression. You get on, twist the throttle, oh my god, it just takes off an absolute beast. But then it turned out that it was a bit hard to control, especially the first MT-09. There were different ignition maps when you switched to that map. Oh, it was just wild. I actually never even rode it, because it was so crazy, so aggressive. The next model was already more refined, but this one, now it's really usable. And you can actually ride it on any map, even the most aggressive one. We can control it perfectly. Why? Because it's a completely new machine. The engine is entirely new. They increase the displacement, but at the same time, they lighten all of its components. What always amazes me whenever it happens. If we lighten the engine, it affects the whole machine. Not only in terms of throttle response, but also handling. It affects everything. Surprisingly, the engine, to everyone's surprise, it shows that it's possible, because we have the new Euro 5 standards, and usually the power is maintained or even drops, but here we have more power. I think by about 4 horsepower, 119 horsepower. At this point, we have even more Newton meters, and the torque curve is much more favorable. So it turns out that it can be done. So this engine, besides being eager to rev, also gives us even more performance along with those revs. It's just brilliant. I kind of laugh about the fact that it was always Triumph's thing. 3-cylinder engines, and now it's like Yamaha is giving them a run for their money. A slap in the face. Because, for example, the MT-09 fits perfectly between the Triumph 765 and the 1200. It's like the perfect balance between those motorcycles. Of course, I have nothing against Triumph because they're great bikes, but Yamaha just found this niche. That spot, you know, like when you have a wound or something, you keep poking at it and circling around with your finger. So the engine really is brilliant. If you think about it as a feat of engineering, I think it really is. Because it doesn't even vibrate that much. It's super quiet, the engine itself, and we'll get to that in a moment. At the same time, you can ride it at 1,500 RPM in 5th or 6th gear, and then you can downshift. And just by revving it up, it pulls smoothly, getting crazier and crazier. But at the same time, eventually we can have total control. Well, we finally had a nice spot, I won't lie. A few times during the day I slipped the clutch, a few times I accidentally opened the throttle, but at the end of the day we had a closed area where I could really go wild on this motorcycle. And finally, it lets itself be controlled very, very easily. You can pop quick wheelies with it, you can ride slow wheelies too. I know you always say that every motorcycle has to be able to do wheelies. Well, it doesn't have to, but if you want to do it, a lot of people will try. Just remember to try it in places like today. A big empty lot, just a wide open space, and then you can try. You can find places like that. If you don't know how to do it, if you don't really want to learn, but you'd like to get the taste of it, the electronics will help you. And that's a big surprise because it's gonna cost, well, let me say 400 to 5,000 PLN for this motorcycle. We're still waiting for the official price. And you get electronics equipped with an IMU, that kind of sensor, you know, a 6-axis, one separate traction control, separate slide control, meaning a rear wheel slip when cornering, or rather lean, angle. Managing that wheel is separated as well, wheelie control. We can set all of this separately. We can also completely turn off traction control. But if we leave wheelie control on level 1, when we're coming out of a corner, we open the throttle in first or second gear and feel the bike start to lift. We just keep the throttle open, it gently brings the front down, and we keep going. World-class stuff. You know, it's like soon these little motorcycles will be riding for us. Remember, motorcycles are for us. So if we can have more fun and do it safely, then what's wrong with that? I honestly don't know. Because when you ride an FZ9 from a few years ago, you might not dare to hold the throttle when the front wheel lifts. But here you can do it and just feel what it's all about. And one day you'll find a place and start trying to do it with the traction control turned off. Besides that, ABS, I'll finish this topic now. As for electronics, ABS comes with a cornering option, which is great, really cool, because you can brake very deep into the corner. You can feel the brake. This master cylinder is excellent. Finally, we don't have to squeeze the brakes hard like on the MT-09. I use just one finger all day, and the braking power is really impressive. The problem is that we can't turn off the ABS on the rear wheel. So if we wanted to do more tricks, or for example, slide into a corner, for example, on a track, because I think this motorcycle will be great for small track. You want to go there and you won't have the option to turn off the ABS. And for example, during hard braking, the ABS will intervene. It will kick in because the rear will be lifting off. You might want to, I don't know, slide a bit into the corner because you have a slipper clutch. You could do it, but the ABS won't let you. You know, that's the Japanese logic that it's safer to have the ABS on. My logic is that it's better to have a choice. And that's actually safer because no one will now. Because now people will start pulling out fuses and then they won't have ABS at all. And that's not safe either. It's not. Well, when it comes to sliding and downshifting, it's all about the gearbox. The gearbox hasn't changed much, but now we have a quick shifter for both upshifts and downshifts. And you just hold it and you can hear it as you close the throttle and downshift. Without using the clutch, it's just sweet, absolutely sweet, a wonderful thing. And on top of that, you get an accompaniment because recently when I was reviewing the KTM, I pointed out seriously, how is it even possible that such an exciting motorcycle sounds so bad? But here there was an entire team responsible for acoustics and they worked on this exhaust. It's not loud, it just sounds really nice. It roars, this little rascal. It's awesome, I even recorded it just for you. So now we have these moments with the roar. MT-09. So, as you can see for yourselves, for me, this is probably the first motorcycle that doesn't need an Akrapovic at all. Because I think Akrap, first of all, it looks worse, because here it sticks out like that. And secondly, I gave it some gas, and it doesn't sound any better, so ta-da, stock, we really have something great. As for the ride itself, just to sum up a bit, I'm really happy that the Yamaha handles a bit differently in the corners, because those previous models, they had exactly that. This is the topic of first impressions. You get on the MT-09 and think, wow, this is light, it's fast, it turns easily. That's because in the MT-09, the weight is very low look. The engine itself is set really low. And that causes, well, you know, it's just physics. When it's low, you push it and it reacts immediately, but then it comes right back. Like one of those roly-poly toys, right? So when you rode this motorcycle on the track and tried to lean it harder, it started to give you some resistance. Of course, you can ride it on the track. Many people do, including juniors. But honestly, I've ridden more enjoyable motorcycles on the track. Here, on the street, at least, we were really going fast. At times, I think this effect has been significantly reduced, probably mainly thanks to the lightweight wheels, because the wheels here are forged and 700 grams lighter, which is a lot when it comes to wheels. Besides that, the suspension has been newly tuned, and the engine is also lighter, the internals. So these masses are also lower. I know the more the engine revs, the more it tends to straighten itself out. So I don't want to jinx it, but it looks like I just have to take the motorcycle to the track. It seems that this effect has been eliminated, and this motorcycle really handles corners brilliantly because it enters them very lightly and allows for great control. Partly thanks to the soft suspension, because it's so soft that when you hit a bump, sometimes it makes you sway a bit. But it's nothing dramatic, it stabilizes right away. And the truth is, for street riding, softer motorcycles are better because they're also more willing to turn. When you brake, it dives, so the wheelbase shortens a bit, which also helps it turn. So in my opinion, just like with the previous 1.7 when I rode them fast, I still prefer the version. The SP, that's already the Erlin suspension. And this one, this here, I didn't miss it at all. So I suspect that only when riding on the track might it turn out that having the Erlins would be useful. So the choice has become easier. Because with previous bikes, when someone asked me E, SP, or the regular one, I would say, get the SP, it's better. But here, for now, I don't feel that need. So if you're going to ride on the track, get the SP. If not, you can just have this one. It seems to me that this motorcycle is very well balanced. The gauges are funny. For example, you know, they're also quite small. It's this balance between the strange appearance and the amazing riding experience. You look at this motorcycle and think, but then when you get on it, and it's wow. So that's the balance. If I had to choose, I started with the Hornet 600. I think that if I had started with the if I had ended up with the MT-09, like it was before I had one motorcycle, I didn't ride it off-road, and the motorcycle was supposed to serve me for as many activities as possible. It's fast enough because it's really a fast motorcycle, but at the same time, it's the kind where you can twist the throttle and you won't immediately be going 300 kilometers per hour. For touring, it's simply comfortable, it's quiet, it doesn't vibrate, you can put on a windshield, there are panniers you can buy, and off you go. It's also great in the city, super nice, smooth. So if you're gonna have just one new motorcycle, this is honestly an awesome option. I think it might get a bit too familiar over time. I don't know, we'll see, let me know what you think, but the truth is, hand on heart, this is objectively a very, very, very good motorcycle. Just like the previous MT-09s for me, they were fine, but I always said that. They were a bit too much, but now everything seems to have balanced out. And this really is a motorcycle that's balanced. Nice. You need to swap out the foot pegs for touring ones, but you can still adjust that. Yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, just ask. I'm off now, my throat's already dry, but I'll answer any questions. And I'll probably write more about it in the magazine. The photos should turn out nice. Yeah, best regards. Bye.